Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, madam. My name is Martin Te Huno. I'm in a group 3 and we are presenting on the topic corporate governance in practice and relationship between leadership and governance. My colleagues will introduce themselves when it's their turn. Thank you. I'm doing the introduction. First of all, we can't talk about the practices without talking about what corporate governance is. So I would like to introduce or tell what a corporate governance is all about. Corporate governance or board governance is the standard of rules that allows organizations to ensure that they are serving the needs of their shareholders, management, and customers effectively and responsibly. However, in doing that, they are running the company in a way that meets the company's set objectives and their short and long-term goals. Every corporation should follow best practices for corporate governance. Best practices apply equally to new corporations as they do to well-established one. Best practices for corporate governance apply to large companies, small companies, public companies, private, and more. They even apply to non-profit organizations and other entities. The benefit of following the best corporate practices for good corporate governance are many, and the potential impact is boundless. Good corporate governance improves overall performance and promotes trust among shareholders and other stakeholders. Good corporate governance provides for sound strategic planning, which is the first when you want to do any business, come with planning and better risk management. Corporations that embrace these practices for corporate governance continually move towards long-term sustainability. Corporate governance prevents legitimateness and provide far-reaching legal protection for corporations. In following these principles of good corporate governance, take a bit effort. However, while corporations can expect to invest some of their corporate cedis in a corporate governance, taking steps towards best corporate doesn't have to be expensive. For that matter, however, best practice incorporates many different aspects towards board work. They entail deep critical thinking, look at the qualities and characteristics of board directions, who they are as people, and the way they approach governing an organization. Specifically, some of the best practices includes being accountable, having a competent board, aligning their responsibilities, defining their rules and responsibilities and better managing risk effectively. On this note, I would like to bring my introduction to an end and call upon Teresa to come out to present the practices. Thank you.
My name is Teresa Asare. I'm continuing from where Martin ended with best practice for corporate governance. Right-sized governance practice will positively impact long-term corporate performance, but companies must design and implement those that both comply with legal requirements and meet their particular needs. Best practice incorporate many different aspects of board work. They entail taking a critical look at the qualities and characteristics of board directions, who they are as people, and the way they approach governing an organization. Corporate governance best practice offer guidelines for board members to be most effective in bringing strategic value to their organizations. Board chairpersons and members help ensure the board plays a key role in the company's success when they develop strong understanding and successfully implementing corporate governance. Here are the top 5 corporate governance best practice that every board of directors can engage so as to benefit their company. The first one is building a competent board, and the second is aligning strategies with goals. The third is being accountable. The fourth is having a high level of ethics and integrity. And the fifth one is defining roles and responsibilities and managing risks effectively. I end here and I leave the space for Pearl to throw more light on the points that I have stated. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone, my name is Pearl and I'll be continuing from where Teresa ended and elaborate on the best practices for corporate governance. So start with building a competent board. Corporate governance today has a new focus on diversity and independence. This is because boards have the task of dealing with issues that are highly complex and often technical in nature. So the board must have implicit trust in order to have productive discussions. They should also participate in annual self-evaluation to identify their strengths and weaknesses. The key to better corporate governance lies in the working relationship between boards and managers, in the social dynamics of board interactions, and constructive involvement of individual directors. The second practice is aligning strategies with goals. Boards should use all of their human resources and other tools to identify and assess all forms of risk. The board needs to work together to develop the company's risk tolerance and risk profile. They need to ensure that the company has the proper framework and control in place in order to monitor risk and mitigate it when necessary. It requires the board to look at risk and strategies on a short and long-term basis. The third practice is being accountable. Best practices for accountability includes making decisions about the correlation between attracting the most talented board nominees and offering them enough compensation to make board work worth their while, but without creating conflicts of interest. The board should communicate with stakeholders at regular intervals in order to have understandable assessments of how to achieve its business purposes. you should understand and determine the nature and the extent of the risk within the organization, and to establish clear channels for decision making and communication. So I'll end here and hand over to Elizabeth to continue with the rest of the best practices for corporate governance. Thank you.
Good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon, class. My name is Elizabeth Obin. I'm a member of Group 3. Our topic is corporate governance in practice. I'm here to explain the point. Having a high level of ethics and integrity, and defining roles and responsibility. I will first highlight on having high level of ethics and integrity. When we talk about having a high level of ethics and integrity, we are saying that board should have a clear stated conflict of interest policy and ensure that board directors declare all conflict of interest and refrain from voting on such matters. This simply means the board should not go about doing things on his own without consulting others for their opinions, or doing things that will not suit the organization policy, such as favoring those who are on his side only. Whatever he says is final. The boss should be someone who is honest and truthful of one's action. The board should also institute policies for whistleblowing and broadcasting non-conformity. When we talk about whistleblowing, we are referring to behaviors or actions that we believe to be misconduct, criminal, and not in line with the company's code of conduct, and report that suspicion. There are some people in our organization, what they know is to just expose secretive information which are not correct within the organization, or give a report about people. If a policy is being put in place for such people, like if you report about Mr. A, they have to call you in front of Mr. A to say it to his hearing. If such policy continues, I think there will be no more whistleblowing in our organizations anymore. We are on defining roles and responsibilities. Another hallmark of best practices is to separate the rules of the board chair and the CEO, and to have distinct rules for each of them. Example, the CEO is responsible with the executive team for implementing the decisions of the board and its committee, while the chairman is responsible for promoting the highest standard of integrity. This act simply promotes overall board independence while allowing the CEO to focus on the everyday demands of managing a company. All board of directors should have job description and an outline that describes their duties and responsibilities. The job description is to outline the main duties and responsibilities that are involved in that particular job. It helps to determine whether the role is in line with the skill set and whether it is a job they actually want to do. When you have the job description, it will let you know what specific you are doing in that organization, the nature and the things you will be doing without waiting for someone to tell you what to do. It also helps formulate training and development plans. On this note, I will end here with my explanation and call Rhoda to present about diligent governance clue. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rhoda Osaya Santoa, a member of Group 3. To add to what my colleague Elizabeth said, I would like to talk about Diligent Governance Cloud. Diligent Boards is a board portal that provides a technological solution for conforming with best practices for corporate governance. The portal has a software that stores electronic books for board meetings, committees, and other purposes. The portal has a place for board directors' profiles and biographies, as well as listings for job descriptions, duties, and responsibilities. Diligent Boards design the governance cloud with the processes of board directors, executives, general counsels, and corporate secretaries in mind. No other company offers such a comprehensive array of software tools that are cohesive and connected to fully meet the needs of today's board of directors. The Governance Cloud, the only integrated enterprise governance management solution that enables organizations to achieve best-in-class governance, is an ecosystem of software tools that digitizes the various activities and tasks for the board of directors. It also allows board of directors to meet demands in the boardroom and beyond, with the ability to select the products they need, which will in turn help them to perform their best and work with their allotted budgets. Diligent boards protect against legal risk because it provides boards with secure documentations that demonstrate how board directors arrived at their decision making. The program makes it easy for board of directors to communicate and collaborate in any setting. All communications are documented securely in the portal. Diligent Messenger is a secure and private communication tool that lets board of directors share messages and information, including attachments from one board of director to another, private groups, or the whole board. It even lets directors retract messages they didn't intend to send. Diligence has several other electronic tools in its governance cloud that interface with the board portal and also help to ensure best for corporate governance. There are programs for director and officer questionnaires and another for board self-evaluations. Diligent Insight Program, a software program that creates videos and articles exclusively for board of directors so that they can get the latest in the industry and corporate news tailored or geared towards their interest. Best practices for corporate governance are advancing all the time. That is why technological solutions like those in the Diligent Clouds can help corporations to ensure best practices. The electronic board tools will continue to evolve right along with the best practices. Corporations cannot afford not to follow best practices, so Diligent representatives are happy to work with companies of all sizes and budgets. Diligent's suite of products is purposely built with good corporate governance at the forefront of their design. On that note, I'll hand over the mantle to my colleague Esther to elaborate on the various corporate governance practices in Ghana. Thank you.
Good afternoon, fellow colleagues. My name is Esther Mafuesian. I'm a member of Group 3, and our topic is corporate governance practice in Ghana and the difference between corporate governance and leadership. I am to talk about corporate governance practice in Ghana. Corporate governance is an important issues when it comes to management of a company, and it can lead to success or failure of the company. In Ghana, the rules, laws, and the code that guide the practice of corporate governance can be found in banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act, Companies Code, the Security Industrial Act, and the Ghana Stock Exchange regulations. We are all aware the corporate governance directives issued by Bank of Ghana and Security and Exchange Commission in the financial sector as a result of collapse of some banks and investment companies in the country. These banks and fund managers were said to have poor corporate governance and lack of compliance to the existing governance structure, which contributed hugely to their collapse. The corporate governance directives issued by Bank of Ghana in 2018 gives clear path and practice of corporate governance in the banking sector in Ghana. This issuance of 86 paragraph directive, according to Bank of Ghana, seek to require regulated financial institutions adopt sound corporate governance principles and best practice to enable them to perform their role in enhancing economic growth in Ghana, and to promote and maintain public trust and confidence in regulated financial institutions by prescribing sound corporate governance standards are critically to the proper functioning of the banking sector and economy as a whole. Clearly, the issuance of this directive is to promote the good practice of corporate governance in the financial sector in Ghana. The directives seek to provide guidelines and regulatory requirements in several aspects of corporate practices in the banking sector in Ghana. Fellow colleagues, this is what I have for corporate governance practice in Ghana. Thank you.
My name is Priscilla Tete, and taking off from where Esther left off, she went into corporate governance practices here in Ghana. I would be speaking on why it is important for us to have a good corporate governance system or a good corporate governance practice in an organization. And we can attest to the fact that a lot of countries and then global institutions all across the globe from all over the world have some codes, or they have some specific ways that things are done in an organization. They've drawn up some structures and codes, practices that people should follow, leaders or managers should follow in order to govern the organization. They do all this only to help maintain the integrity of the company and also to help improve on economic performance. So we can also say that a good corporate governance system or practice is a framework that helps to correct things that are done in an organization. It helps to keep the dealings or the day-to-day activities of the organizations very transparent, and also people are made to be responsible for their actions. There are a whole lot of things that comes with having a good structure or good governance practices in an organization. For this reason, the importance cannot be underestimated. We see that a good corporate governance system is keen on considering how its activities affect stakeholders of the company, so they take into consideration, or they make sure that every decision that they have to take has a positive effect, or it affects the stakeholders positively. So they strive to achieve that. And then when there is good corporate governance in an organization, it helps to actually minimize wastage, corruption, risk, and then mismanagement. So when there's a specific way of how things should be done, then you're able to check that people are doing the right thing. In that way, people are not able to cut corners, people are not able to hold back some of the money. So you're able to check corruption, you're able to check that funds or resources are not mismanaged. You're also able to check that resources are not wasted, and this actually creates a great and good brand reputation for the company or the organization, and it also makes the competitors of the organization know that, okay, so this organization is doing the right thing and we have to put our A game up. It makes the company very competitive. So there's a need, or now we realize that there's an increasing need for a good governance structure and then practice, because it confirms that organizations are doing the right thing. They are ensuring that things are done the right way, from the managers down to the frontliners. And this actually also helps, it goes a long way to help curb corporate failures. It also helps to prevent scandals and then fraud, among others. And for this reason, it is important that most companies or all companies should have a good corporate governance system, or they should have some good practices that help them to go on their day-to-day activities in the company. Okay, so I'd like to end here. Thank you very much. But then my colleague Rita will take off from where I'm ending, and she'll be talking about the relationship between leadership and then governance. Thank you very much.
My name is Rita, and I'm talking about leadership, the relationship between leadership and governance. I will first start by saying that leadership and governance works hand in hand, as in they support each other, they are supportive. Combining both enhances the quality of work, or a set of goals are achieved when two are combined. I'll therefore say that without leadership, there will be no governance, and vice versa. So I would say that they are twin because they work hand in hand. Governance play the role of directing a leader. So if governance playing a role of directing a leader and there is no leader, then there will be no need for any governance, any structure, any let down procedures. So the research is a survey between leadership and then governance. I'll first of all look at the definition for both. Leadership is the act of leading people or an organization, being able to influence people to understand and agree about what needs to be done and how to go about it. That is leadership. And when we talk about governance, we say governance is defined as a provision of structure through which a company objectives are set, and the means of attaining those objectives and monitoring performance. It ensures everything done within an organization is in alignment with board set directions for that organization. So it's like a structure through which company or an institution objectives are set, and most of the time it's the board of directors that are responsible for making such objectives. So it means that governance is a regulation. It's a regulation that's being able to influence the direction, the control, the action, and the affairs of management. We would go by talking about the roles of leaders and then managers. A leader is strategic. When we say a leader is strategic, we mean that we mean a person who has skills in planning, someone who is able to formulate and implement, someone who sets goals and so determined to achieve such a goal, and also being able to mobilize resources in order for this goal or this action to be executed. We will also say that it's a visionary person, someone who inspires to greatness. We also say that leadership emerge depending on situational factors and have personal power to lead by influencing others. We also say that leader shares mutual objectives with their followers. You don't just get up and then get to know that followers has a different mindset, whilst the leader also have a different mindset. So a leader shares mutual objective, which means that they all have a common goal. They all have one particular goal they want to achieve. A leader can initiate change by communicating a vision or goal and seeking to inspire others into the action. We also look at a manager. We say a manager focuses on efficiency and effectiveness. It means when we say a manager focuses on effectiveness, we are talking about they doing the right task, the right thing, completing the activities and achieving goals. So when we say something is effectiveness, is about doing the right tasks, completing the activities and achieving the goals. And when we also say that a manager is efficiency, focuses on efficiency, it means that him is about doing the right thing in a favorable way. You don't just do things that will just favor but favoring everybody. So we will say that it's about doing things in an optional way or a favorable way. We continue by saying that managers are appointed to positions of power and have authority over subordinates. Managers seek objectives that often clash with subordinates' objectives. Managers are followers of an initiative who are reactive and depends on authority to get compliance. We also say that managers supervise, control, or direct a group of people towards the achievement of a common goal. We say managers are employed in a defined position within an organization with employees that report to them. Last but not least, we say managers produce organization, structure, clear problem, and resolve any problem or find solutions for any problem. So now we are looking at the relationship between leadership and then governance. The success of an organization depends on both on how strong leadership and governance processes, how strong these two are. So the purpose of governance is to complicity. When we say complicity, we mean like to turn complicated issues to reduce or to maintain order, to reduce demand, to allocate and organize resources. Whilst the purpose of leadership is to cope with change, to foster learning, to increase capacity, to align meaning and coordinate actions. We also say that governance involves to do things right, whilst leadership involves to do the right thing. When we say governance involves to do things right, it means that when a task is assigned, it should be done properly, that in a proper way, in a correct way. That is to do things right, like appropriate steps in order to achieve the required objectives. When we say that leadership involves to do the right thing, it means that doing the right thing is the good of the organization and that of the people. So this one looks at that the tasks being assigned and is properly done. Whilst looking at the right thing, meaning doing what is good for the organization as well as the people. We'll also continue by saying that governance, the outcome of governance is operational effectiveness, whilst the outcome for leadership is organizational agility. We'll say that operational effectiveness, when we say governance focuses or its outcome is an operational effective, it means that it provides employees with security. It gives them consistent access to information. Whilst leadership adapt to change, it helps the organization react quickly to any emergency, any sudden shift, in order for their goals to be achieved. We say that governance also implements creative solutions to alter process and improve system, whilst leadership inspires individuals to identify, alter and create context. Government establishes new mechanisms, structures, and initiates to resolve or reduce problems, whilst leadership understands the source of the problem and learns how best to go into a new context where problems are not identified as such. That's why in the we said they are able to adapt to changes. Leadership deals with daily operations, whilst governance is about the underlying ethics of a corporation. The relationship between these two can be seen as a symbiotic one, as they depend on one another. As I said earlier, they work hand in hand. They combining these two would give an organizational set goals to be achieved. So we said that they depend on one another to make the firm or to establish a firm. The following are some of the ways this relationship can be highlighted. So we say that if there is poor leadership and management, it can affect governance. If there is weak governance, it can also affect leadership and management. If there is weak governance again, it undermines the financial and operational performance of a corporation. And the last but not the least, we say that weak governance affects investors' faith in the company as well. The combined effect of the above is that leadership sets out governance principles to guide the running of the corporation, and in turn, the governance principles keeps the leadership in check. So that the laid down procedures keeps the leadership in check in order for for a leader to be able to influence people, there should be governance. And governance also is a structure. So one has to go according to the structure in order to influence people. That's why then we said that to guide the running of the corporation, and in turn, the governance principles keeps the leadership in check. Thank you. And Angela will give the conclusion.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angelina Ayamga, Group 3, and I will be sharing with you the conclusion we made on our study on corporate governance in practice and the relationship between leadership and governance. From our study, it was very obvious that good corporate governance is very essential, and no proper institution can survive over a long period of time with poor corporate governance system. It was also established that for an organization to be able to practice good corporate governance, it needs a good leadership management to achieve that. In Ghana, for instance, the practice of good corporate governance obviously got its wake-up call when several financial institutions collapsed in recent years. Their collapse was mainly attributed to the lack of good corporate governance structure and practice where key decisions are taken without regard to the laid-down procedures. Other financial institutions such as securities and exchange commissions have also issued corporate governance directives to safeguard the security market in Ghana, owing to the collapse of the many fund management companies. Even though the overall objective principle and course of corporate governance system to promote good governance to ensure transparency and reduce the risk of exposure of the organization, without proper and effective supervision to ensure compliance of the codes, principles and the directive in the case of Ghana financial sector, objective will not be achieved as envisaged. Thank you.